Welcome to Crappie Hippies at the Bench, an instructional video series on how to tie lead-free jigs, flies, and make your own lead-free fish-catching lures. Brought to you by Glasswater Angling for a better outdoors. And now here's Crappie Hippie at the Bench. Welcome everybody to the Crappie Hippie at the Bench, and I am here at KK Fly Fishers in Overland Park, Kansas, Johnson County, Kansas. It's a part of the Kansas City Metro, and this is one of my favorite places on earth. I love to come in here. I love to shop here because the prices are more competitive than we get at White River Shop at the Bass Pro. I got nothing against Bass Pro, but I love to support a local business, and especially a local business that's doing it as right as they do it in here at KK. It's an absolute wonderland of materials. They are very fly fishing oriented, but there's plenty of stuff here for us jig makers, whether we're going for walleyes, whether we're going for crappies, whether we're going for the big black bass. Endless colors and styles of chenille. We get all the thread, all the stuff you need to craft your lures, to craft your jigs, craft your spinners. He doesn't carry the blades and all that kind of lure making stuff, but it's a great place to get your fly fishing supplies. But of course, a lot of this fly fishing stuff carries over into our jig tying arena. And like I say, I love to support a local business, and this is one of the best. Coming here is an absolute treat. And you fly fishers, if you don't have the time to tie your own, Kevin and the boys were happy to tie stuff up for you. We've got cases and cases and cases. Beautiful flies, well tied, reasonably priced flies. And I can't say enough good things about this place. Like I say, it's one of my favorite places in town and perhaps in the round green world at large. So we're going to get together with a couple of my buddies, and we're going to tie a few jigs here today. This video is going to be on tying a rat tail jig, some people call it. Some people call them jump jigs. Some people call them, fiber tail jigs and so on. It's a real basic jig. Today we got Les, the Professor Cline, and he's over here putting together some nice olive patterns for the spring. And then we got the Crappie Stopper himself, Kim Burnett, and he will be doing the actual tying of our flies today. So stay tuned. Get ready to check it out. Okay, I'm going to start this off with just talking a little narration here, and then we're going to let you go and watch close-ups of the technique in the rest of the film. So I begin by giving my buddy Kim some 88% bismuth jig heads, lead-free. Bismuth is great because you can powder paint it. It has a much higher melting point than tin. Now I hope you noticed the motion he used when he put that jig head in there, side to side. That's main. You want to shake your thing of powder paint. You want it nice and fluffy, and you don't want to just cram the jig head straight down in there. You give it a side to side motion, and it's very important to tap that excess off as quickly as you can. And that's it, done and done. Now you can use a lighter like Kim. I use a candle. I know a lot of guys that use the hot air gun, which is a nice option. You can get those pretty cheap at Harbor Freight for like $15-20. But whatever method you use, it's real nice and real fun to be able to powder paint because it's very quick. Now when we talk about curing, there's a lot of different ideas on how quickly and how hot you want to cure these jigs. We'll get into that when we do an episode on how to powder paint and different ways to paint jig heads, because powder paint isn't the only way by far. All right, so now he gets it in his real nice professional fly tying vise, which he needs because he ties a few thousand jigs a year for his customers. But remember, you can just get by with a B.H. Thompson vise that you can go out and buy for $20. And you need more information on that. There's my video on how to set up in jig tying for $60, whereas that vise right there is about $300. Now he's picking out what color of rubber leg he's going to use on this particular pattern. We're going to make a single furled tail, assassin, stubby butt. I call them jump jigs, whatever you want to call them. They have different names around the country. Anyway, we settled on a nice chartreuse. Now Kim likes round, but he says flat works just fine too. And you can use the silicone, you can use the rubber, you can use silly rubber. But here, let's watch the technique, because he just showed me this, and I think it makes for a really nice tail. Now you can, of course, you don't have to furl it. You can just tie it straight on there. But this technique is a lot of fun. It gives a little more lift to the tail. And it's just really makes it easier to tie, and it just gives you another look that you can use when you're out there chasing those crappies. Okay, so locate the middle. And the main thing here is that you're turning the strands in the opposite direction. And then to get that tail loop closed finer, you see you stretch it and then back, and the more twists you put in it, the finer and more cool looking your furl will be. And then pinch, because otherwise it's going to come undone. It's going to come untwisted on you. You're going to throw it on the shank. And if you notice, when you tie a furl tail on like this, you get those two little feelers out front. Now he's going to cut those off. But if you're anything like me, you're looking at that going, wow, that would make a cool bluegill jig to leave those on there and maybe even add some more legs. So yeah, you can leave those front things on and make them into legs, and they're really good for bluegill and red ears. But we're focusing on crappie, and we're just going to do a single furl tail. Definitely have to get it together and do some more jig tying videos and share some more of these ideas. Anyway, on goes with this ice blue chenille that we picked out. Note that Kim ties his up at the head because he likes a nice full body on his jigs. Not everybody does this. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just what look you want to get. But he'll go down to the hook bend or the hook point and back. And that's how he likes to tie. So, and he's smiling now because we were joking about what we were going to call this jig, because everybody likes to give their lures fancy little kind of silly names. We were just like, the whitehead of blue death or whatever. We were laughing. He just says, I call him a white, blue, and chartreuse jig. Keep it simple. I don't know what y'all name that jig, but it's a good looking pattern. It's really, really awesome. And now he's gonna tie it off. He's gonna cut that little nubbin away and then put in the classic whip finish, which I think he takes 6-7 turns. And he doesn't even bother to put on any kind of shellac or any kind of hardener. He just gives it a good whip finish. And the hardcore fly tying people, hardcore jig tying people will tell you that if you do your whip finish correctly, you don't need to add any glue. You don't need to add any hardener. So to keep those wraps tight and together, fish after fish. Well, there it is. Really cool. All right, well, listen, I'm going to get out of here. We're just going to turn on the music and do some close-ups of Kim tying furl tail jigs and single tail jigs and split tail jigs. Have fun. Crappie Hippie out. Okay, I'm afraid I lied. I said I was getting out of here, but you know what? I've gone ahead and re-edited this video. I wanted to get the picture in closer because some of you have contacted me and said, hey, I like the video, but I can't really see what Kim is doing there. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and re-edit some of these and get some of this in a little closer. So here we go. I lied. I'm going to keep talking, but I'll keep the music as some bed music going, and we'll watch what he's doing here. Now remember, turn the ends opposite directions, and the more you do this, the tighter you get the twist, the finer the work on the tail is going to be, and you end up with that really awesome looking tail. And like I said before, it's just a matter of texture. I mean, having the turns in the tail just give it some sort of scaly kind of living appearance, although we're going to show a single strand tie here shortly that I've used for years. Kim just showed me this trick a few weeks before we made this video, so this is as new to me as it is to some of you. So alrighty, here we go with the chenille. We'll let him wrap that in. He's using an ice blue chenille, a little flash in it, little what's called A-stars. Just means has a little flash in it. And we're going to see him do something here that he likes to do, which is to do a double wrap, go down and back, especially on an 1/8 ounce jig. And he, like me, favors the medium chenille. He'd rather just build up 2 strands. Now look, he did not quite have enough to get back home. No panic. We're just going to cut another little piece. We're going to work it in. No tears, no panic. Just just work it in, okay, and then just finish your tie. And take it all the way to the front, and even up that body, and lash that chenille down. Now that happens sometimes, and that's one reason I wrap off the card. I go through the hassle of wrapping off the card because nothing gets on my nerves more than to have to do that, to tie in an extra piece of chenille. I don't know why. It's not that big a deal. But, okay, here we go with the whip finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Somewhere in there is his usual amount. And note how he tugs on that knot, and he tugs that knot till it disappears down into the chenille. And sometimes he'll break, and sometimes he'll cut. You don't want to pull so hard on that thread that you actually, bend your hook out of line or, do something like that. So there he is. Alrighty, so now we're going to go to the double furl tail. And this is just like the one we just tied. And we're going to show you again how to create that beautiful furl tail. This is a thing we can have all kinds of fun making legs and tails and skirts and doing all kinds of crazy things with our rubber, our silicone, or our silly rubber. And Kim likes to use round, but he says that the flat will also work just great. And believe me, he knows. Okay, so it's basically the same technique, except we're going to put 2 on there, and they will naturally sort of create a V, naturally form kind of a double tail back there, and that's where we get the idea for a lot of your plastics, like the old puddle jumpers, and I think that's why people call them jump jigs, and I think that's why that plastic pattern may have gotten that name, because it looks like somebody, kind of jumping, through the air in a way. Anyway, it's a great action. Single tail is great, but sometimes the double tail works a little better. The beetle, some of these other baits that have these twin tails, this tie is back in the days where we take rubber bands and stuff and put legs and stuff on the jig. And then waited till the materials caught up to us or caught up to our community. But this type of non-feather tail has been around, and I'm sure guys are tying it with the rabbit zonker strips and doing it with all kinds of natural materials too. But this is the way that I learned it, and this is the way Kim is tying it for us today.
So many people just want to reach to the top. Listen, cannot race with the clock. Oh no, 'cause it's never stop. Alright, drum and bass, no take it easy. Alright, I take it slow. Oh yes, I take it easy. Alright, I take it slow. Oh yes, just a little love that we want. Just a little love that we need. Just a little love that we want. Hey, just a little love that we need to keep us alright. Alright, to keep us together. Oh yeah, keep us together. Alright, keep us alright. Oh yeah, hey, just a little love that we want. Just a little love that we need. Just a little love that we want. Just a little love that we need.
Okay, we're back now. Now we're going to do a standard split tail for this one, and this one involves no furl. This involves doing a really cool method, this loop method. This helps you get your tail strands nice and even, and it keeps them centered on the jig. Notice how slowly, we go at first, a little loose. See, we're going to see how he's going to roll that loop around until it's laying flat. And this will give you a better orientation on how flat your legs are going to lay. He's being a little stubborn, and that's why he's going to wait until he gets it flattened out. Now his jig is turned a little bit towards us. He's got a great articulating vise that can rotate and do all kinds of stuff. So, but see, he's got that. He's kind of tilted it so you can see. He's got that laying nice and flat on there, and then he binds it down, ties it down. And here we go again with that frosty blue Estaz chenille that we decided to use for the demonstration on this video.
Really good stuff. And once again, blue is not a color that I'm accustomed to using for crappies, but the more friends you make, the more experiences you encounter, the more ideas come across your mind, and you can't argue with success. And Kim is one of the best crappie anglers I've ever met. He's also one of the coolest. He's happy to share the secrets. He's happy to share the know-how. He's happy to pass along any kind of help he can to put more fish in your bucket. And of course, you can get hold of Kim and have him make these jigs up for you if you don't feel like tying them yourself. But of course, here he is showing you how to do it. If you've got the inclination and want to get in on the fun of jig tying, he's happy to share. So we got the big loop in the back, and believe me, I'm tempted. This is probably where the beaver tail came from. You kind of want to see that loop filled in and maybe just leave it, but that's just going to snag stuff. That's not a good bet unless it would be filled in somehow. But it is a cool shape, and I think it would have kind of a fun action. I just think it would catch every weed and every stick in the pond. So we're going to grab the scissors, stretch it out, boom, nice and even, just like that. Alrighty, so there you go. There's some jump jig patterns for you. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed learning from making it. Thank you for the constructive comments, y'all that have gotten in touch with me. We'll look forward to making more videos at KK Fly Fishers and with the Crappie Stopper, my buddy Kim Burnett, in the future. This is Crappie Hippie saying tight lines and Valentines. Peace out. Today's edition of Crappie Hippie at the Bench was brought to you by Glasswater Angling. Glasswater Angling for a better outdoors. Makers of lead-free fishing tackle. Visit us at glasswaterangling.com, home of Angle King, Crappie Doodler, hand-tied jester jigs, bismuth jig heads, and so much more. Thank you too to Kim at Crappie Stopper Jigs and Flies for tying our jigs today. And thank you to the Professor Les Cline for the moral support. And thanks very much to KK Fly Fishers in downtown Overland Park, Kansas, just in the Kansas City metro area, for giving us a fun place to hang out and do this film. And thanks for the bed music to John Dealey for Blues Blast, to Jerry Harris for Just Need a Little Love, and for Break the Bands for Beautiful and Young. This is Crappie Hippie on behalf of Glasswater Angling saying have fun in the outdoors, but remember, conservation begins with you.